Doing the hair thing. Hair and headwear in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing as components of a functional black aesthetic. This presentation is intended for educational purposes only and has been created and recorded by Shané Weaver, adjunct professor within the Department of Literature at American University. Per the title, this work explores the ways in which Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing reflects a black aesthetic. By black aesthetic, this work is referring to a term and ideology which gained popularity in the 1960s as a result and as a part of the Black Arts Movement. Proponent and member of the Black Arts Movement Larry Nail once stated in an article entitled The Black Arts Movement in the summer of 1968 that the Black Arts Movement is radically opposed to any concept of the artist that alienates him from his community. This movement is the aesthetic and spiritual sister of the Black Power concept. As such, it envisions an art that speaks directly to the needs and aspirations of Black America. In order to perform this task, the Black Arts Movement proposes a radical reordering of the Western cultural aesthetic. It proposes a separate symbolism, mythology, critique, and iconology. The Black arts and the Black Power concept both relate broadly to the Afro-American's desire for self-determination and nationhood. One is concerned with the relationship between art and politics, the other with the art of politics. Recently, these two movements have begun to merge. The political values inherent in the Black Power concept are now finding concrete expression in the aesthetics of Afro-American dramatists, poets, choreographers, musicians, and novelists. Within the 1980s, Spike Lee created several films, including Do the Right Thing, which reflect a black aesthetic, full of various examples of Afrocentric pride. Although there's a great deal of information available within academic and popular culture realms about the fashion within Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, there's a disproportionate amount of attention paid to the role of hair within that fashion aesthetic, or hair as its own entity that reflects a black aesthetic. Thus, this work focuses on the role of hair and headwear within Do the Right Thing as a functional black aesthetic. Special attention is paid to the work of Ruth E. Carter as costume designer and Larry M. Cherry as hairstylist. Mr. Senior Love Daddy is a neighborhood DJ within Bed-Stuy, which is the setting of Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. Mr. Senior Love Daddy is often analyzed as a third-person omniscient narrator as he looks from his studio window upon the actions of the many characters within the film. What is often neglected, though, is a discussion of Senior Love Daddy or Mr. Senior Love Daddy's fashion, more specifically his array of hats. Mr. Senior Love Daddy switches hats at several points within the plot, inclusive of climax or climactic moments, moments of resolution, and moments of conflict. His hats include the following styles: a top hat, a safari hat, a Panama hat, a straw hat, and a kufi. Each of these hats are functional in reality when they are worn by humans outside of the movie, but they are also functional because of some of their visual qualities as included in the film. The kufi specifically, and Mr. Senior Love Daddy's brimmed hat, both include the colors red, green, and black. The aforementioned kufi reads Afrocentric and includes cowrie shells. The use of the colors red, green, and black not only represent colors in the African flag or the flag of many African nations, but red, green, and black also represent the Pan-African ideology that is oftentimes explored in many Afrocentric works. After Mr. Senior Love Daddy warns the citizens of Bed-Stuy of the impending 100-degree day, and the possibility of melting caps on the heads of those who wore the ever so popular 1980s jerry curl style, the central character and one of the protagonists of the films, Mookie, is introduced to the audience. Mookie is first introduced alone in a room where the audience can observe his natural high-top fade. Subsequently, Mookie is shown in one of the most intimate shots of the film, in which he and his sister Jade are shown in a close-up shot where the audience can overtly see both of their natural hairstyles. Mookie's natural fade and Jade's natural close-cut curls set the precedence for an array of natural African styles that the audience will observe in the film following their introduction. There are several fades and other natural hairstyles that appear amongst the African men and women within Do the Right Thing, which further exemplify the African or the black aesthetic that functions within the film. Jade is shown in yet another celebration of natural hair or intimate scene that includes natural hair during the hairstyling scene between herself and Mother Sister. Within this scene, the audience can observe the celebration of natural hair and the use of head wraps. Jade and Mother Sister both don ornate head wraps, not to be confused with the maintenance hair scarf that Mother Sister wears in a previous scene when she has not yet left her house but instead is sitting in her window. When discussing African American women's hair, it is important to highlight the difference between one's nightly maintenance scarf and ornate head wraps. While many African American women take pride in wearing ornate head wraps because they are representative of an Afrocentric or are conscious of one's African culture, some women frown upon the use of nightly scarves outside because they represent the in-home environment or a domestic space. Thus, there is a markable difference represented in the head wraps that Mother, Sister, and Jade wear on the porch when they are outside before the community. Mother, Sister, and Jade's conversation during this scene about tenderheadedness also reflect a unique relationship that occurs between stylist or practitioner and client in African American women's grooming sessions. Mother Sister states to Jade that Jade is one of the only people that she entrusts to comb or work with her hair. This highlights the unique relationship that exists within African American beauty culture between stylist and client, albeit licensed stylist or male or female stylist and client. This factor exists almost unanimously and ubiquitously within the African American culture. The politics of respect, the politics of natural hair, the variations of natural hair as represented in the differences between Jade's natural hair and Mother Sister's natural hair, all come together to represent or illuminate the significance of hair in African American communities and the variations and reflections of beauty. There is no one representation of African American beauty. This scene shows that there are several ways or several reflections of African American women's beauty within the realm and space of hair. Jade and Mother Sister's hair, or their natural hair, comes to the fore yet again in separate scenes in which they are being held in conversation or engaged in conversation with men who have a romantic or semi-romantic interest in them. As the mayor, who wears a boat hat, which was popular in the 1950s, looks in upon Mother Sister, her natural hair is also exposed yet again. As the mayor gives Mother Sister or gifts her some flowers, his hat is also something that the audience can pay attention to and read symbolically. The boat hat, which was popular in the 1950s, was often used in outside activities. This can be read as a symbolic feature of the mayor's nomadic character. As he walks throughout the Bed-Stuy neighborhood and vigilantly helps various characters throughout the text, the outside hat or the boat hat can be read as part and parcel of his nomadic, vigilant, watchful character. In the scene below, which displays Jade and Sal engaged in conversation. Sal's gaze is different than that of the mayor, as he looks in upon Jade and calls out various aspects of her countenance as unfamiliar, thus reflecting a oftentimes typical Eurocentric gaze upon an African female. Jade's hat is just like many of the other characters' hats within the film, as it protects her face from the blazing 100+ degree sun. But Jade's hat is markedly different because it also lets her free, natural hair be shown through the top of her hat. These scenes simultaneously depict male-female interactions within the film while celebrating African American natural hair. Fades were a popular style worn by African American men in the 1980s. Buggin' Out, Mookie, and Radio Raheem are all figures or characters that serve to propel the plot forward within Do the Right Thing. Although each of these men wear fades, their fades are different because of the various cuts and styles and lines included in their fades. Buggin' Out's fade features a long rat tail that is wrapped in the significant African colors red, black, and green, which can serve to be a symbolic or have a symbolic relationship to his character that is Afrocentric and overtly fights back against Sal's pizzeria and Eurocentric disclusion of African people. Radio Raheem's fade is shorter than Buggin' Out's, but also features unique shapes. Mookie's fade is shorter than Buggin' Out's as well, but also features unique cuts and parts. Each of these men's hair is uniquely different. However, each of them have the shared quality of being people who overtly fight the power within Do the Right Thing. Throughout Do the Right Thing, the community is overtly involved in the action. No community group or group of friends is more overtly involved in commenting on the action than the group that stands behind Buggin' Out in the upper image. The group or crew of friends includes 3 younger African American males and 1 African American female named Ella. This analysis highlights Ella as she is the only African American female in this group of friends. As the group of friends come in at various pivotal moments within the text and they serve to give a community commentary, Ella is shown wearing a hat. One may confuse Ella's hat with a boat hat. However, Ella's hat is or can be read as a bucket hat that is flipped up or stylized around the rim. Ella's hat is saving her from the sun, much like everyone else's hat within the film, but it is also functional as a part of her youth and her style. Remarkably different community cores exist amongst the 3 African American male figures or characters who sit across the street from the Korean-owned store. ML, Sweet Willie, and Coconut Sid are the 3 older gentlemen who have conversation that narrates the action that they observe within the community and some of the various topics or thematic issues that appear but are not overtly stated within the film. The hats worn by ML, Willie, and Sid are vastly different. ML wears a bucket hat, which one can analyze to be a representation of his seemingly calm disposition. Sweet Willie wears a fedora, which was popular in the 1950s as a marker of swagger, and one can read that association with Sweet Willie's self-proclaimed ladies' man quality. Sid's hat, which was called a flat cap and was popular in the 1950s, can be read as an ironic symbol or a symbol of irony in that it was often associated historically with men who had jobs because the hat kept the sun out of the men's eyes while working. And the irony lies in the fact that Sid and his 2 friends are often said to be jobless. Although there are several variations of the cap or a hat represented amongst this group of males, it can also be appreciated as part of a black aesthetic because the men wear hats in a way that is different from the historical associated meaning within an American context. The men use style to subvert the meaning of their caps. In many discussions of African cosmology and epistemology, water is regarded as a vital force. Thus, this analysis illuminates the role of water as a force of chaos and catharsis within Do the Right Thing. In the scenes depicted here, the fire hydrant has been released and community members of all ages engage in the fire hydrant water. As people splash and laugh, they are relieved from the ease and imposition of the sun, along with some of the overarching political issues within their Bed-Stuy community. However, a passerby is experiencing a moment of chaos as his car is filled with water. This passerby is not just a person who drives through the neighborhood, he's also an outsider, which is revealed in his condescending comments about the residents of Bed-Stuy. As members of the community look upon this man, this outside man, as he converses with the police and attempts to get the community members reprimanded, many hats and various styles are a part of the background and the backdrop. This moment of chaos and catharsis is very symbolic as one reads or analyzes the power of water, fashion, and style, along with a specific focus on hair and headdresses as they represent a black aesthetic within Do the Right Thing. Although there are several hats worn by community members who do not appear as major or minor characters, this analysis has represented or highlighted several of the significant usages or features of hats, headdresses, and hair, as represented in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. However, in this scene where hat nor headdress are depicted, Mookie's conversation with Pino is one of the foremost significant elements of a discussion of hair and Do the Right Thing. Within this conversation, assumptions made about race based on phenotypical features are dismissed. However, the conversation between Mookie and Pino also illuminates the significance of hair as an important part of African American culture and aesthetics, as Pino's references to political African American ideologies begins with a distinct hair reference to Al Sharpton. Though this moment may go unrecognized in many cases, it overtly reflects hair as part and parcel of the strong black aesthetic and visual reinforcement of African pride via hair, as represented in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. Central to the power of Lee's Bed-Stuy depiction are the overt dealings with political rights struggles for personhood and visibility performed by minorities in American cities on a daily basis to achieve agency and a sense of self. The potency of such themes and topics are made manifest in the styling and wardrobe of the film. Aside from the undeniably conscious clothing that represents the people of Bed-Stuy and the politicized themes of the film, hair and headwear donned by African women and men in Do the Right Thing are a functional part of the black aesthetic of the film, which has cinematically ushered Africans out of the margin and into the centers of African film and political matters since its premiere in 1989 through the present day.
White and black, it's different.
It's different?
Yeah, to me, it's different.
You know, deep down inside, I think you wish you were black.
Get the fuck out of here.
Laugh if you want to. You know, your hair is kinkier than mine. What does that mean? And you know what they say about dark Italians?
You know, I've been listening and reading.
You been reading now?
I read. I've been reading about your leaders, Reverend Al, Mr. Dude, Sharp Tone, Jesse. Keep hope alive.
That's fucked up.
Keep hope alive.
Hey, that's fucked. Don't talk about Jesse.
And even the other guy, what's his name? Farrakhan.
Minister Farrakhan.
All right, sorry. Minister Farrakhan. Anyway, Minister Farrakhan always talks about the so-called day when the black man will rise. We will one day, what does he say? We will one day rule the earth as we did in our glorious past.
Yeah, that's right.
What past you talking about? I mean, what did I miss?
We started civilization.
Man, keep dreaming, man. Then you woke up.
Pino, fuck you, fuck your fucking pizza, and fuck Frank Sinatra.
Yeah? Well, fuck you too, and fuck Michael Jackson.